You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and what I've been doing recently with this show is starting with recapping yesterday's baseball games. I'm not going to do that here. I'm still going to recap the games, I just can't start with it. 3 of those games were blowouts. And B, the most important reason, one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history and the best pitcher in Yankee history has died. That, of course, is Edward Charles Whitey Ford, who passed away today at the age of 91. 12 days shy of his 92nd birthday. Even though I never saw Ford pitch live, he was my favorite Yankee. And I'll tell you why he was my favorite Yankee. When I was picking a favorite Yankee and you looked in the media guide, you saw all the all-time team records. Ford was at the top of all of them. Wins, Ford, number 1. And he's still number 1. When Pettit went to the Astros, that sunk his chances of beating Ford's 236 wins. Innings pitched, Ford, number 1. 2 innings ahead of Red Ruffing. Strikeouts was Ford for a long time. Pettit was able to beat him. Games started. Ford and Pettit are tied. Shutouts. Ford, number 1, with 45. It was very easy for me to pick an all-time favorite Yankee. More than what he did in context of Yankees' all-time records, Ford has a record that I don't think will ever be broken, of pitchers with at least 300 career decisions. So if you went 150 and 150, 0 and 300, 300 and 0, anything like that, of at least that number, Ford ranks first all time in winning percentage with .690. 236 wins to 106 losses. No one is beating that. Especially now when we live in an era where wins are devalued. Yeah, tell Ford that. Tell Ford that wins don't matter. In 8th grade, I had to do an alphabet report on someone who I liked. You had to use all 26 letters in the alphabet, and you had to come up with a word that meant something to that person. I chose Whitey Ford. And I don't remember which letter I used, B for blonde, W for Whitey. I think it was B for blonde. But that was when I learned that Ford was nicknamed Whitey because of his blonde hair. That was the nickname that he got in the minors. And somewhere in my house, I think I got Ford to sign it. I met Ford. Really nice guy. I mean, just to be able to reach back into that part of history and have a conversation with someone of Ford's stature was incredible to 14-year-old Jacob. Tom Van Riper compared Ron Guidry to Whitey Ford. Look, you can pull out all the stats you want, and I'm not trying to begrudge Ron Guidry. I understand that some of their seasons are similar, but Whitey Ford was better than Ron Guidry. It's why I got a little defensive when Van Riper brought that up. Nothing against Tom. I like Tom, friend of mine, but while the stats may be similar, Ford was light years ahead of Guidry. Ford's first year with the Yankees was 1950. At that time, the Yankees had 3 really good starters in Allie Reynolds, Vic Raschi, and Eddie Lopat. Ford came up and pitched better than all of them. Went 9-1 with a 2.81 ERA. Eddie Lopat in 1950 had 72 strikeouts. He pitched 236 in the third innings. Ford, in 112 innings, so less than double, had 59. You know, it's kind of funny. Some people say that Andy Pettitte is the best starter in Yankees history because if he didn't go to the Astros, he would have beaten all of Ford's records. Well, if we're playing that if game, Pettitte wouldn't have touched Ford's records if Ford never went into the Army. 51 and 52, Ford didn't play. If you want to play that if game with Pettitte, play it with Ford. It's not up for debate. This isn't a matter of opinion. This is fact. Whitey Ford is the best starting pitcher in Yankees history. Period. Case closed. In fact, I think he's the best pitcher in Yankees history. I have him ahead of Mariano Rivera. Some people will put Rivera ahead of Ford. That's fine. I can live with that. What I can't live with is people putting Pettitte over Ford. That's ridiculous. I want to circle back to his rookie season. I'm probably going to be jumping around a lot. In fact, I have been jumping around a lot. I'm sorry, it's just... this is really hard for me. Seaver dying was rough, but I'm not a Mets fan. Gibson and Brock dying was rough, but I'm not a Cardinals fan. Whitey Ford was my favorite player. A lifetime Yankee, my favorite team. Yeah, this is a lot harder for me. In 1950, the Yankees met the Whiz Kids in the World Series, the Philadelphia Phillies. Ford started Game 4. The Yankees were up 3-0 at this point. So, did Ford need to pitch a gem? No, he didn't. But, he did. His first ever playoff start. His first ever World Series start. He went 8 2/3. Didn't give up any earned runs. The 2 runs that the Phillies scored were because of a stupid error by the left fielder, Gene Woodling. Think about that. Ford's first ever start under the bright lights. The guy nearly pitches a complete game shutout. Good luck finding someone else to do that. If I don't skip over some seasons, we're going to be here all day. I mean, I could go in depth on every year Ford had. In the interview that I did with John Shea about Willie Mays, Shea said that you couldn't pick a great Willie Mays year as his best season because they were all great. He's 100% right. But the same thing applies to Whitey Ford. He averaged 17-8 with a 2.75 ERA and 142 strikeouts. That was his average. He never had a year where his ERA was above 3.3. And what's sad is, at the time, guys like Mantle and Maris and Berra were getting most of the headlines. Ford was out there, and in every one of his starts was pitching great. The old adage is true. You can't win a World Series without great pitching. If Ford wasn't the ace of a World Series winning team, he was right up there. I mean, he won 6 World Series. 50, he wasn't the ace, but it was his first year. He started the year in the minors. Of course, he's not going to be the ace. 58, that was the great year by Bob Turley. And 62, that was a great year by Ralph Terry. So it took Herculean years by people to prevent Ford from being the quote-unquote ace of the staff. But it didn't matter, because in both those years, Game 1 of the World Series, Ford got the start. That's a pretty good indication of who the best pitcher was. In fact, that was how he got the nickname Chairman of the Board, because he was so great in high-pressure situations. Had an even keel about him, didn't let anything get to him, wasn't fazed by anything. I'll go through some of the highlights of Ford's career. 55 was the first year that he led the American League in wins. He went 18-7 with a 2.63 ERA. He pitched 18 complete games. That led the American League. The year after that, he went 19-6. That 760 winning percentage led the American League. 2.47 ERA led the majors. 58, 2.01 ERA led the majors, along with 7 shutouts. His best season, though, was 1961. Again, with Mantle and Maris getting the headlines, Ford had an under-the-radar 25-4 season. That equates to an 862 winning percentage, and no one cared about it. They just wanted to see who would break Ruth's record, Maris or Mantle. Ford didn't care. Every time he got the ball, he just went out there and did his job. And what's kind of telling about Ford is that in the World Series that year against the Reds, Ford won World Series MVP. Mantle and Maris no-showed. They only had 1 home run between them. That was Maris. They only had 3 hits between them. Mantle had 1. Maris had 2. In fact, Mantle only had 6 at-bats the whole World Series. He got hurt. Big surprise. So think about it. Your two best offensive players, non-factors in a World Series. You're in trouble, right? Not with Whitey Ford. Game 1, he pitched a shutout. Only gave up 2 hits. Game 4, he got the start on 3 days rest. Because that's what Ford did. It's a big deal that Gerrit Cole is getting the start today on 3 days rest. Ford did it like it was nothing. Ford pitched 5 innings of shutout baseball. That led him to win World Series MVP. This guy was a great postseason pitcher. You may not know it by the stats, but he was elite. He once pitched 33 2/3 scoreless innings in the World Series. 1960 and 1961, the guy didn't give up a run. Incredible. In 1963, Ford went 24-7. That equates to a .774 winning percentage. He led the American League in wins. This guy averaged 230 innings per season. There are guys now who will never pitch 230 innings in a season, period. Forget averaging it. They'll never pitch it in a season. And here's the crazy thing. His totals actually could have been better. When Casey Stengel was manager, he would save Ford for the best opponents, the Tigers, the Indians, whoever. So Ford was really getting starts skipped. But he was going out there and winning. The guy didn't complain. He just went out and won. Finally, Ralph Houck unleashed the beast. And that was when Ford got the over 20 win seasons. If Ford had been used normally his whole career, starting every 4th day, he would have had 300 wins. Easily. This I didn't know. Thank you, Wikipedia. Ford's 2.75 ERA is the second lowest among starters whose careers began after 1920. Only Clayton Kershaw is lower. Remember when I said that Ford started a bunch of game 1s? Well, I'll tell you exactly how many he started. 8. He should have started 9, but Casey Stengel did something stupid in 1960. Another reason why the Yankees lost that World Series that they never should have lost. If Ford starts game 1, and then game 4, and then game 7, Yankees win. Easily. In fact, it may not get to a game 7. Yankees would have destroyed him. Ford's 10 wins in the World Series is a record. And it's a record that'll probably never be broken. Because realize, he pitched in 11 World Series. No one is ever going to pitch in 11 World Series again. I'll rattle through his career awards really quickly. 10-time All-Star. Again, 6-time World Series winner. 1961 Cy Young winner. He would have won in 63 also, but Sandy Koufax had a Koufax-like year. Ford won World Series MVP in 61, I said that. Somehow, he wasn't elected to the Hall of Fame on his first ballot. I don't know what those people were watching, but Ford should have gone into the Hall of Fame in 73. But it is kind of nice that he got to go into the Hall of Fame with Mickey Mantle, his teammate for so many years. At the final game of the old stadium, Ford threw the first pitch to Yogi Berra. I was there. incredible tribute. He was at old-timers games. Obviously, he never played. It was an effort to get him to just stand up and doff his cap. But when he did, the crowd went nuts. He had been sick for a while, but still, this is a hard one. This is a really, really hard death to process. From the bottom of my heart, I hope he rests in peace. Moving on now to yesterday's games. And of the 4 elimination games that happened yesterday in baseball, 3 teams clinched their tickets to the LCS. One team is going to have to go through a Game 5 against Garrett Cole to get there. Good luck, Rays. Or no, bad luck. Very bad luck. In all seriousness, I'll go chronologically through yesterday's games, starting with Braves-Marlins. Not a lot I can say about this game, except Kyle Wright proved me wrong. I didn't think Wright would have a great game, and he did. 6 innings of shutout baseball. He only gave up 3 hits. He had 7 strikeouts. The Marlins were not making good contact off him. Everything was a ground ball. Wright had his full array of pitches going, and it was a dominating performance. I thought that Sixto Sanchez would outduel him. I did think the Marlins would force a Game 4. Sanchez looked dreadful, and so did Taylor Rogers. At the end of the day, though, I said this yesterday, there's no shame in losing to a superior team if you're the Marlins. They weren't supposed to be here. They definitely weren't supposed to be here after their roster was decimated by COVID. This was an incredibly successful season. And the Marlins started their franchise off by going 7-0 in postseason series. They won 2 World Series without winning the division. That's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie to you. Moving on now to Athletics Astros. This game just epitomized the fact that the Astros are the superior team to the Athletics. They always were. Brantley, 3 for 5. Bregman, 2 for 4. Tucker, 3 for 5. Correa, 3 for 4. Brantley hit 2 home runs. Correa had 5 RBIs. You can't beat that if you're the Athletics. Yeah, you got 6 runs. Good for you. You got to Zach Greinke. And then when the game was over, you got to Ryan Presley. Congratulations. It didn't matter. You're just not as good as the Astros. I am sick and tired of every freaking year hearing about the Athletics. Every year when they make the playoffs, it's, oh, this is a good Athletics team. You know, look at everything that they had to overcome to get here. You know, Billy Bean and the sabermetrics, it all works. Look at the minuscule payroll. Look who they're going up against. What have they won? They've won nothing. They haven't been in the ALCS since 2006. They haven't won a game in the ALCS since 1992, when they lost to the Blue Jays. In 2006, they got swept by the Tigers. Sabermetrics does not work. You cannot build a team solely around sabermetrics and expect it to win the World Series. If your goal is just to make the playoffs, to sneak in as a wild card team, and whatever happens afterwards happens, fine. Congratulations, Billy Beane. You did it. But you are the most overrated man in all of baseball. You have not won a World Series. You've never even won a pennant. You are a joke. You are an absolute disgrace to the game. You and Bill James should go work security together at a pork and beans factory. Because that's what Bill James did before he got into sabermetrics. I'm not kidding. Look it up. Every freaking year, I hear this about the Athletics. You know what? They could really surprise you this year. They have some good players. They have some underrated players. Watch out. This is their year. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. On the other side of things, though, this is actually a good situation for Major League Baseball. The Astros are proving that they can win without the help of trash cans and TV monitors. There are some people who want to strip the Astros of the 2017 World Series. I don't want to do that. There are some people who already are saying that Altuve, Bregman, and Correa aren't Hall of Famers because they cheated. As much as I hate the Astros, I disagree with both those points. Firstly, this isn't college. Alright, we're not going to strip anyone of anything. That's ridiculous. I don't like when the NCAA does it. I don't want professional sports organizations doing it. That's number one. Number two, you don't know how much the sign stealing really helped them. You don't know if that's the seminal reason that they won. You want to tell me that they don't get the benefit of the doubt? Of course they do. The onus is on you to prove that without knowing what pitch was coming, they'd be dreadful. These guys are really talented players. It was the ultimate irony of the whole thing. These guys didn't need to steal signs. They were that good. It's not like these were quadruple A players that put it together for a magical run. No, these guys are incredibly talented. I'm not saying let the Astros off the hook or anything. No one hates the Astros more than me. But this is a good thing for Major League Baseball that they're winning. It does restore the legitimacy of the 2017 World Series if it was ever seriously called into question. Moving on now to Rays Yankees. And I killed Aaron Boone for how he managed Game 2. Whether it was him or Brian Cashman who came up with the stupid idea for the opener, that's irrelevant. The point is, Boone implemented it. He was in charge of the pitching changes. It was an absolute joke. But give Boone credit for how he managed yesterday. Montgomery got into some trouble in the third inning. He worked through it. He got into some trouble in the fourth inning, and he worked through it. Boone trusted his starter. That's what happens when you trust your starter. Furthermore, I didn't even mind when Montgomery was pulled. Chad Green came in to start the fifth inning. The plan was to try to get some length out of him, Britton, and Chapman. Those are the only 3 guys that Boone really trusts in that bullpen. I personally would trust Jonathan Holder, but if Boone doesn't, whatever. I'd like to be able to trust Adam Ottavino, but I don't know if I can. He has not been good in the playoffs as a Yankee. So Green pitches 2 innings, doesn't give up a hit. Britton pitches 1 2/3, doesn't give up a hit. Aroldis Chapman gets the save after going 1 1/3. He doesn't give up a hit. And he only allows 1 walk. This was a dominating performance from the Yankee pitchers. This is exactly what they needed. Some people were saying that Montgomery went above and beyond what you could have expected from him. I don't know how true that is. I mean, I'm not saying it's fair to expect, a no-hitter or something, or 8 innings of shutout baseball, but I thought Montgomery would do well. I said this before, I really like Montgomery. I think he gets a really bad rap. Doesn't throw heat, but locates his pitches well. He likes to try to get hitters to chase. When it doesn't work, it looks bad, but more often than not, Montgomery gets him to chase. He's a good pitcher. It was predictable that the Rays' opener strategy would fail. Ryan Yarbrough should have started that game. Here's the thing with the opener that no one has been able to explain to me. Why is it better for the guy who's going to pitch the bulk of the innings to come out of the bullpen? If you're telling me you just want him to go, 3 or 4 innings, maybe 5, that's fine. I have no problem with bullpen games. That's a legitimate strategy that some teams use. I think it gets used too much, but that's an argument for another day. What is the benefit of having a reliever start the game? You don't want him to face the lineup the 3rd time through? That's a bunch of nonsense. You want to have him on a short leash at that point? I can sort of kind of understand that. But give him the opportunity to do it. If he shows that he can't, then go to the bullpen. But you have to trust your pitchers. I mean, Ryan Thompson did not pitch well. Quite frankly, I was really surprised to see him pitch as long as he did in the 2nd. I thought he was going to be pulled after the Voit home run. When he walked the bases loaded, I thought he was going to be pulled. Here's the thing I'm getting from these bullpen games. Managers are giving up. These are games that the managers are saying, we don't need to win them. We don't expect to win them. If we win them, great. But we're trying to win the next day. This is the freaking playoffs, you idiots! Every game matters. There are no gimmies. The Rays put themselves in a situation where they now have to face Garrett Cole to try to win this series. On what planet is that a better option than trying to win Game 4? How is throwing away Game 2, if you're Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman, the Yankees, whoever, a better option than going with Tanaka in Game 2 and Happ in Game 3? With Davy Garcia waiting in the wings if you need him. If you need to use an opener, go for it. The Yankees were in a situation last year, not this past year, but last year, when they really only had 4 starters. and they needed Chad Green as the opener. And it worked. But then in the playoffs when they tried it, the Yankees lost. That was Game 6 of the ALCS. Openers don't work in the playoffs. The regular season, I don't like it, but I can tolerate it. In the playoffs, though, no, it will not work. You are destined to fail. The last game to talk about is Dodgers-Padres. Not much I can say about this game. It was a complete romp. The Padres pitching had no chance against this stacked Dodgers lineup. Morejon was ineffective. Craig Stammen was ineffective. Luis Patino was ineffective. Trevor Rosenthal in the 9th inning, if there was ever a chance for the Padres to come back, that was erased after he imploded in the 9th. I mean, my God. Dan Altavilla, too, was bad. I mean, there's no shame in losing to a superior team. What I said about the Marlins does apply to the Padres, but they went all out to make a serious run, and they end up being eliminated in the NLDS. It's a little bit of a failure in that regard, but there's not too much to be upset about. You have a good young core. You supplemented it at this trade deadline. There's nothing stopping A.J. Preller from looking to improve the team even more in this coming offseason. In fact, it would surprise me if he didn't. The Padres are set up well for the future. They just ran up against a great Dodgers team. A Dodgers team with a lineup that from the top down can kill you. Every Dodgers starter, with the exception of Max Muncy, got a hit. You know it's a good day when your catcher is going 5 for 6 with 3 RBIs. And as for Muncy, the guy who went 0 for 3, he had 3 walks. He scored twice. He found a way to contribute. Like I said, the Padres were just outmatched in this series. But now it's time to preview Yankees-Rays. And everyone is saying this, but it's the truth. This is exactly why the Yankees paid Gerrit Cole all that money. 9 years at $324 million. That's $36 million a year. Cole has an opt-out. The Yankees can void it. By voiding it, they will add on another year. So the contract could be 10 years at $360 million. If you give someone that contract, this exact scenario is what you dream of. Game 5 of the ALDS. Win or go home. If you win, you get to go up against the Houston Astros in the ALCS. A rematch from last year. Sweet, sweet karma. I think it's a fair bet to say that you'll see at least one bench-clearing incident. If you lose, that's it. These are moments when legends are made. At the end of the day, Gerrit Cole can go 25-0 every regular season. If he implodes in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. And Cole knows what's at stake here. I mean, he was asked if he was told after Game 1 that he was going to start Game 5 if it got to that point. Cole looked straight at the camera with a look that if looks could kill, we'd all be dead right now. And he just said matter-of-factly, nobody needed to tell me that. What more do you want? As a Yankee fan, what more do you want? This guy gets it. He knows what he has to do. And you know what? He's going to do it. I said Yankees in 5. It's setting up perfectly for that. I mean, if this was a movie, you couldn't script it much better. This guy's boyhood dream is to play for the Yankees. The Yankees pursue him for years. Finally, he comes. And he has an opportunity to clinch a spot for the Yankees to face the Astros in the ALCS. The big bad Astros, the team that everyone in baseball hates. The Yankees are usually the big bad villain in the story. Against the Astros, they're the heroes. Like I said, if this was a movie, I'd buy a ticket. The Rays are countering with Tyler Glass now. And this is kind of an interesting strategy by Cash. This isn't an opener deal. Glasnow is pitching on 2 days rest. So they're going to have Glasnow in a perfect world go maybe 3 innings at most. And then they'll put in Snell. See, the danger with starting a guy on 3 days rest is that he's not going to be as effective. You know, if you keep him out there for too long, his arm will fall off. And you have to manage him a little differently. You have to have a quicker hook. Cash is doing something a little different. And the thing is, the Yankees could have duplicated it. Not to belabor the point, but if Tanaka had started Game 2, Cole would get the start in Game 5, but after Cole, it could be Tanaka. This is an elimination game. All hands on deck. Don't worry about conserving pitchers for the Astros series. You have to get there first. You cross that bridge when you get there. And getting there is no guarantee. I mean, Glasnow is a really, really good pitcher. You wouldn't know it from Game 2, but he's good. Fastball high, curveball in the dirt, multiple ways to get you out. He reminds me a lot of Walker Buehler when I watch him pitch. They're very similar pitchers. Glasnow and Buehler. I'm a little surprised that Snell isn't starting the game, but if the plan is to have Snell as the first guy out of the bullpen, it doesn't really matter much. I said this yesterday. The Rays gave the Yankees an opening to win this series when they started an opener in Game 4. Let's see if the Yankees can capitalize on it. I think they're going to. Moving on now to Buccaneers Bears. And this was a great game. I didn't expect it to be this good. I thought the Buccaneers were going to beat the Bears pretty handedly, but whenever Foles goes up against Brady, he turns into Joe Montana. I mean, he had to make some big throws. He was getting no support from Montgomery in the running game. David Montgomery only had 10 rushes for 29 yards. But you know what? Foles rose to the occasion. He found Allen Robinson 10 times for 90 yards. Jimmy Graham got involved a few times, so did Cordero Patterson. Montgomery, who's a really good pass-catching back. Foles looks really good. And don't look now, but the Bears are 4-1. There were some calls last year for Matt Nagy to be fired. Nagy's going to get Coach of the Year votes at this rate. In fact, he could win it. This is a really good Bears team. As for the Buccaneers, Brady played well. Ronald Jones played really well. 17 carries for 106 yards. The Bears' defense got torn apart. I thought that was going to be the story of this game. If the Buccaneers held on to win and didn't give up that drive to Foles late, how did the Bears' defense allow Ronald Jones to run roughshod over them? I mean, Jones got all the carries. Leonard Fournette was active, but he didn't play. Scotty Miller didn't play. The Bears' defense got torn up by guys who you wouldn't expect. Tyler Johnson, too. A guy who I loved coming out of Minnesota, but hasn't done anything this year. He was the Buccaneers' leading receiver yesterday. 4 catches for 61 yards. And it was kind of funny. After Brady threw the incompletion that ended the game, intended for Cameron Brate over the middle, Brady was waving his hands. 4! We have one more down, right? Oh, no, we don't? Oh, darn it. And then he threw a tablet and ran off. Wouldn't shake Foles' hand. Look, I don't mind Brady running off. He thought he had a 4th down. He really didn't. He was hot. You could see it. He ran off. He didn't want to see anyone. He hates to lose. And he was embarrassed under the bright lights. Not embarrassed with his performance, embarrassed by thinking he had a 4th down when it would have been 5th down. It really didn't bother me that Brady ran off. The real issue for the Buccaneers here is that Vita Vea is out for the year. That is official. He broke his leg. He is done. Forget about it. Always liked Vea. Loved him coming out of Washington. Thought he was going to be a wrecking ball from day one. And you know what? He's turned into that. It'll be interesting to see how Todd Bowles can scheme around that. I don't have much faith in his ability to do that. Alright, now it's time for me to make my 3 NFL picks. Went 1-2 last week, 500 overall, 6-6. I don't like that. As my father says, 500 is the definition of mediocrity. Now, in all fairness to me, I wasn't crazy about any of the matchups last week. I tried to be confident about the picks, but I really couldn't be. It was hard. Very, very hard to make those picks. But I'm very confident in these 3 picks. I like the Steelers -7 in the Battle of Pennsylvania against the Eagles. Carson Wentz has had a dreadful season so far. Ben Roethlisberger hasn't missed a beat since coming back from injury. The Eagles are going to be without Dallas Goedert. They have no wide receivers. The Eagles' offense is a mess. And I think this great Steelers defense is going to take advantage of that. I think the Steelers are going to embarrass the Eagles here. I don't think they're going to be able to get much going against this steel curtain at all. Give me the Steelers -7. And give me the Rams -7 against Washington. I don't think Washington is going to win Kyle Allen's first start for him. That's number one. Number two, this is a really good Rams team. Jared Goff is having a really good season. The Rams have a nice three-headed monster at running back with Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, and Cam Akers. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are probably the second best wide receiver duo in the NFL behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Tyler Higbee has had a really good season so far. The Rams have the firepower to win this game by double digits. I mean, it's just that simple. But the main reason I'm picking them is their defense. I don't trust Kyle Allen against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Do I need to say any more than that? The Rams' defense this year has been good. They also have an underrated corner in Darius Williams. I like him. Really good player. The Rams are going to win this game by double digits, and they're going to do it easily. As for my upset, this may be, an easy pick, but hey, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. The Browns are somehow 1-point underdogs to the Colts. The Browns are going to win this game. Forget covering the spread. They're going to win this game. I don't care that they have Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield is putting together a great season. Odell Beckham has finally gotten going. Jarvis Landry is having a good season, even though he hasn't caught a touchdown yet. That could very well change on Sunday. Austin Hooper is doing what the Browns are asking of him. And I just don't think the Colts are that good. You take a look at the teams they've beaten. Okay, fine. The Bears are good. But the other two were the Vikings and Jets. Dreadful teams. Phillip Rivers has not been that good. Neither is Jonathan Taylor. I understand the Colts defense has played great so far. And that's an understatement. They look like the best defense in the NFL. In fact, by most stats, they are. But, again, they're going up against bad teams. And Nick Foles isn't a great quarterback. Neither is Gardner Minshew. They haven't gone up against a great quarterback yet. Baker Mayfield's the best quarterback that they've gone up against. This is the real test for the Colts. I don't think they're going to pass it. Give me the Browns +1. Really fast, I brought up the Jets, so just let me say this really fast. I was almost going to pick the Cardinals -7. But I don't know if the Jets are going to play on Sunday. They had a presumptive positive COVID test. We don't know who got it. We don't know what's going to happen for Sunday's game. It may be pushed back. They may cancel it outright. We don't know. But I thought about picking the Cardinals. I didn't do it because of this presumptive positive. The obvious joke to make is that this is the best thing that could have happened to the Jets because we don't have to watch them play. Insert rim shot here. Thank you very much. Like I said, I just didn't feel comfortable picking the Cardinals because I don't know if they're going to play on Sunday or not. Moving on now to Game 5 of the NBA Finals. The Lakers have an opportunity to win the NBA title tonight. Here's how the Heat can stop it. Continue playing physically, but you've got to get better looks offensively. let's see some isolations. Let's see some plays where you break down a defender one-on-one and shoot over him, or you drive to the basket and draw fouls. The Heat have not done a good job offensively in this series. Now, part of that is because they've missed Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic, but at the end of the day, the scoreboard doesn't care. Butler needs to step up. Hero needs to step up. Duncan Robinson needs to step up. Bam is obviously going to play. He's got to step up. But the biggest guys to step up are Jay Crowder and Kendrick Nunn. Crowder's been getting it done defensively, but offensively he's been dreadful. And Kendrick Nunn was anemic in Game 4. If the Heat don't get big offensive games from Crowder and Nunn, and you know what, I'll put Robinson there too, because that's not a gimme. He can have games where he looks dreadful, as is the case with every shooter. The Heat are going to lose this game. It's just that simple. Butler, Hero, and Adebayo are going to get theirs. It's up to Robinson, Crowder, and Nunn to really step up. As for the Lakers, they've got to get their supporting cast a little more involved. It's great what Anthony Davis is doing. It's great what LeBron James is doing. But you're seeing it a little bit more now. They're, I don't want to say tiring, but they're not as effective as they once were. Game 3, Anthony Davis only had 15 points. And Game 4, they weren't great. They each only hit 8 field goals. The supporting cast needs to step up. I'm looking at KCP, Kyle Kuzma, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, Markieff Morris. Those guys need to step up. The Heat's physical defense is working. They're limiting Davis's and James's effectiveness. Now, granted, they're still winning, but that's because the Heat offense has been dreadful. It's going to be interesting to see which team steps up tonight. NHL free agency recap comes your way Monday morning. Didn't talk hockey this week because I wanted to save everything for that show. I'm going to go team by team, breaking down everything. Signings, trades, buyouts. Very similar to what I did with the NFL. You're going to get that Monday morning. Assuming the Jets play on Sunday, you'll get an instant recap right after the game. If the Yankees lose tonight, which I don't think is going to happen, I'm picking the Yankees. I really think we're going to get a Yankees-Astros ALCS. But if they lose, you'll get my New York Yankees off-season show. Let's say on Tuesday night. Yeah, I like that. Monday morning extra show, Tuesday night extra show. I like the dichotomy there. Of course, you get regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show every weekday afternoon. The Wednesday show is going to be really fun because I'm going to be talking to Stephen Greens. He wrote a book about 24 Negro Leaguers that he thinks should be in the Hall of Fame. That interview could go a little long because we got to go through 24 guys, and I love Hall of Faming. So again, it could go long, but I think it's going to be really interesting. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that I don't have a monkey on my back. I have Godzilla.